When it comes to Lucy's celestial spirits, I think it's a fair observation to say that one of the least useful among them is Taurus. While Lucy uses him routinely throughout the series, all too many times it results in him being useless or defeated. And curiously enough, his primary offering as a spirit is strength alone. It's mentioned that the strength of Lucy's spirits increases as her own does. So to put it simply, Taurus's weakness is Lucy's weakness. But even from early on, she possesses a capable strength through Aquarius, the one who is handily Lucy's most effective spirit. But Aquarius doesn't get along with Lucy, and these relationships are rather interesting when considering how they explore the nature of power. Power is something that Lucy does not start the series possessing, even though she is very much a mage. One of her first acts in the story is in using her sexual appeal for the purposes of manipulation. Yet that power is quickly made into a weakness when it's sought to be exploited. For all of Lucy's potential strength, if she does not have the power to back it up, it's no longer hers to freely use. No matter how many contracts she has, with her keys taken, she cannot make use of them. And in themselves, her spirits have limitations. Horologium can only be used for a certain length of time, so by wasting him to resist the elements, Lucy became vulnerable when she needed him most. In her moment of weakness, she used a spirit of strength, but as she had no power, neither did Taurus. Natsu defeating him and allowing the Vulcan to utilize Taurus's axe to become even more of a threat. The problem was clear. Without power, Lucy would only drag everyone else down and hold them back. But the way forward soon became clear. With her friends in danger, Lucy, for the first time in the story, takes a decisive action in the heat of the moment on her own power. She leaps to save Natsu and Macao at the risk of falling off the cliffside, not through the use of magic, but as a girl trying her hardest to help a friend. And it's only then when Taurus's strength becomes hers. Lucy had been using the celestial spirits in lieu of taking action herself, when the truth is the spirits are meant to support her and her own strength. And even without the spirits at her side, she had so much more to discover. Her knowledge and love of writing led to her discovery of the secret in the book Daybreak. Her true power offered through smarts, first and foremost. Duke Everloo was a fool, who only cared about the power he could exert on others, and Lucy started her road to becoming stronger by joining in on the battle against Everloo. But her attempts to grow stronger would truly come to a head on Galuna Island, where she was reduced to nothing. Sherry's abilities to control her spirits left Lucy alone. Through understanding her spirits, however, Lucy gave Sherry a taste of her own medicine, evening the playing field by pitting the two mages who fought with proxies against each other unarmed. And the one who came out on top was the one trying to be better, the one not relying on her magic alone. This general idea of reliance on power isn't just shown in Lucy, but throughout the whole story. Urza, for instance, saw her armor as a cold shield blocking herself from her friends, yet was able to conquer her fear of finding a new family. Her armor never went away. One cannot be expected to have no barriers, but to have the courage to take them down shows a lack of reliance on that armor. Faust of Adolis was obsessed with holding on to the fleeting power of magic, he and the people of the country fearing what might happen when it was gone. Yet he expended it frivolously, pointless ends consuming the hoarded resource. So came the end of the arc with the country being stripped of it entirely, forced to move forward on their own feet. Nightwalker expressed this fear openly, but it was battle with Scarlet that showed her that magic wasn't necessary. Lucy even won her fight that arc without her spirits, just a magic tool they gave her and her own cleverness. Lucy's father, Jude, when stripped of his monetary power, begged Lucy for help before turning on her when she refused. But after being forced to take a journey with his own power, he was able to remember his own capabilities and strength, able to realize what he could do without relying on money. And after 7 years, he was able to pay off Lucy's rent with what he had built up from nothing. As Lucy continued to fight alongside her own spirits, continued to grow, it was inevitable that she would have to come to a question of true power beyond strength. Phantom Lord was a guild obsessed with strength. Jose's hatred of Fairy Tail was a rejection of the idea that anyone else could be stronger than them. Phantom Lord's headquarters was unlike anything seen by a magic guild. Super weapons spawning from the Council or Zeref would crop up in the series, but in their drive for power, Phantom Lord crafted their very own in the form of the Jupiter Cannon. And in their plotting with Jude, a man who was planning to use his daughter for more political power by marrying her off, Jose was already planning to backstab him, holding Lucy hostage to bleed him for money. Their lust for power would never end, but in facing off against Fairy Tail, they face a group with integrity. Underneath their guild, they had a source of infinite power, Yet even when up against over 700 guilds in the form of the Alvarez Empire, they resolved to never use it, never to be consumed by their potential power. And the power they do display is ultimately held back by integrity. Law was once a spell with no restrictions, able to defeat enemies without harming friends. But in choosing who lives and dies, the user would suffer a curse. But Fairy Law is often accompanied with a countdown, giving the enemy a chance to surrender, their power only wielded defensively, rather than for the sake of having it. To truly be free of the chains in chasing power, to show one does not rely on it, one must be able to give it up. Single-handedly holding back the demons of Tartaros, Lucy summoned 3 spirits at once, something no other spirit mage is shown to be able to do. Her tenacity allowed her to push through even after so many losses, but for her comrades she pushed herself to her limit. But even then it wasn't enough, and so Aquarius, the spirit of hers with the most power, had to be given up for something fleeting. The Celestial Spirit King summoning was a one-time thing, yet in giving up Aquarius she would be without that power for the rest of the series. Lucy had fought to gain more strength and power for the sake of her guild, but in being able to give that up for her guild, Lucy had truly become a mage, one who could stand up on her own. And that was a point she never reached alone. Her whole journey she had one comrade who always looked out for her, always so much stronger and more capable, always saving the day. Against Cain, a man who was too much like an opposite of Lucy, with a powerful body yet relying on magic that was largely unhelpful, Natsu was able to push Lucy to victory. Against Fran Moth, Lucy was willing to release her spirits, her fighting strength, for their safety, which further allowed her to trick him into freeing Natsu. In so many of their fights, Natsu's strength was hers, until the time came to return the favor. In the last battle, against both Natsu's brother Zeref and Natsu's nemesis Acnologia, the flavors of power Lucy had recognized and obtained became everything. In putting herself at risk to rewrite END, she put her knowledge and love of books to use in saving the friends she cared about so much. And as Acnologia's body rampaged, she led Fairy Tail and its alliance to their victory. The Fairy Sphere was only capable because of their bonds. The bonds within and without Fairy Tail. That family Lucy fought to have from the very beginning. With the power of those bonds, they trapped Acnologia's body, affecting him down to his very soul. Where Natsu had won the battle, Lucy had won the day. So much stronger than she had been when they first came to know each other. Lucy came to Fairy Tail seeking a home, a family. She was just a wayward mage with past ties she aimed to sever, and it was at that mage's guild that she bloomed, not just as a mage, but a writer, a journalist, and a friend. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons, Muhammad Hakim, Tengoon, Bayanort, Offline But Not, Bro Rike, Sam Bellmeyer, Gloogle, Maz, Mr. Cynical, Flarbu, Dojo32161, and thanks Nitrorad. And thank you for watching.